And welcome back to the show again. Thank you so much for being with us. Very excited to introduce you to my next guest. I think this is going to be interesting. His name is Curt Mercadante. He is an international speaker, trainer, and a disruptive entrepreneur. We love that. He has just released a new book called The 5 Pillars of the Freedom Lifestyle. We're going to ask about that too. Have a lot of questions. He has a podcast called the Freedom Club podcast. Excuse me. I'm seeing a trend here. The whole freedom thing. He started off with 3 successful businesses, had a 7-figure-a-year PR business, and ditched it all. He fired a bunch of his clients, doubled his rates, and actually made more money. That's a cool way to do it. Curt, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right. Freedom. I see this freedom here a bunch. For a lot of people, freedom might mean selling the business and getting the hell out of entrepreneurship and getting a job, right?
Absolutely. A lot of people come to me and say, oh, freedom lifestyle. You're going to tell me to sell everything and move to the mountains, be a monk? I say, not necessarily. Maybe if that fits you. I'm a free market capitalist kind of guy. That doesn't fit me. But you don't have to sell your job. You don't have to quit. Hell, you don't even have to leave your 9 to 5. I know this is the School for Startups radio. But a lot of people, they quit their job. They go and they start their business. And they think it's about freedom. And 4 or 5 years in, like I did, they feel like they've built a prison instead of a business. And there's a lot of what I like to call hustle and grind pornographers out there. Sleep when you're dead. Fit 4 hours of work into an 8-hour workday. I did an online AMA in 10X Factory. It's an online mastermind for startups. And I had one guy admit, and a lot of people were nodding their heads, well, my dad told me a real man works 8 to 9 hours a day. We had a conversation. It turns out he does about 2 to 3 hours of actually outcomes-focused work a day. I said, why the hell do you spend the rest of your day in there? Well, my dad, I feel guilty if I'm not there. My dad said a real man is supposed to work 8 hours. And he said, well, Curt, do you just waste away when you don't work the rest of the day? And I said, no, I'm never busy because busy is a choice. A lot of people were busy as a badge of honor. But my days are absolutely jam-packed full with experiences that fulfill me. That doesn't just mean work. It means self-care. And it means spending time with my wife and 4 children.
All right. So the subtitle of the book, How to Escape Your Comfort Zone of Misery. I think we have to acknowledge that even though this is the School for Startups, Curt, that entrepreneurship can be a miserable prison for a lot of people and not the right choice. So you were an entrepreneur and you gave it up to become an entrepreneur. Am I right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Right, so somehow those two don't add up together, right? You give up something to become something different, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. It was reinventing myself, reassessing, redefining what success meant. And a lot of us bounce through life like a pinball from objective to objective because we have no clear vision where we want to go. You can't plan to your vision. You have to define your vision and work backwards. So a lot of people will argue with me and say, oh, my vision in my 20s was making partner and making $100,000. And then my vision in my 30s, no, that's an objective. Somewhere along the line, you hit a wall. And if you don't reverse engineer, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I do some masterminds. And a lot of them keep throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. And they're grinding because they read from, pick your celebrity sales guru, pick your celebrity entrepreneurship guru. And it's all about, people are posting pictures. I'm at WeWork and I'm sleeping under my desk. And oh my gosh, yeah, you're making no money. You're running in quicksand. You wear that as a badge of honor, yet you're wondering, what the hell am I doing? This was supposed to be about freedom. What's entrepreneurship supposed to be about? I hit that wall where I was making 7 figures. I was 40 pounds heavier than I'm now. I was on a cocktail of prescription drugs, having anxiety attacks, yet I felt guilty because I was told that's what you were supposed to do. So I said, screw it. Now, into my agency, I fired half my clients, like you said, made more money. Then my dad died. So I had built some freedom time-wise, was making money. My dad died. He had worked on the space program, designed fighter jets, did all these cool things at his wake. All these cool things he had done. Not one person mentioned anything my dad did. He was an entrepreneur later in life. They all mentioned what he did with his family, husband, father, volunteer, church work. And it was like someone dumped a bucket of cold water over my head. And I said, what the hell am I doing? Around that time, I had started coaching as a side hustle. And when I coached, I realized, you know what? I really love doing that. And I want to make sure others don't make the same mistake I did, because I can never have those years back. I learned from them, but you don't have to go through all that crap.
Well, I'm sorry about your father. And the cold water thing was called the ice bucket challenge. And that was nothing to do with your father. It was a totally separate thing, Curt. And hustle and grind is not a kind of porn. That's a popular podcast. Are you making fun of those people? I know them.
I'm not making fun of them in as much as, listen, I understand what they say. You know, like let's take Gary Vee. I can't decide what he wants. Either be patient or you don't have enough time in his life. You know, depending on the podcast he does. Either sleep when you're dead or work smarter. Listen, you can work hard while you're working smart. The key is, listen, my book is 5 Pillars of the Freedom Lifestyle. The 4th pillar is outcomes, becoming radically outcomes focused. So a lot of folks, a lot of entrepreneurs, I say, hey, what did you achieve today? Oh, I was so productive. I got 25 things on my to-do list. I said, no, what did you achieve? I was productive. I got into the office at 4. None of that is actual productivity. None of that actually signals what you achieve. You're filling your day, you're clogging your day with inputs instead of becoming radically outcomes focused, where you know your vision, you reverse engineer it. So every year, every month, every week, every day, you know the just three outcomes you need to achieve to win the day.
But some of those outcomes, Curt, need 8 things done off of a to-do list. My outcome is to have a fantastic event where I'm the featured speaker with 500 people there. That means that I have to do 24 things along the way, doesn't it? I mean, those things still have to get done. And so if I got 24 of the things off my to-do list, I deserve to feel productive. I don't understand what's wrong with being productive.
Well, that's not productivity. So somewhere...
But I got a bunch of stuff done today, so I feel good about it.
Well, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't feel good when they get stuff done. They grind and then they maybe get 15 things done and they go home at the end of the day and they feel like, oh, I'm stuck in quicksand. I got all this stuff done, but I didn't get, what did you do to win the day? Well, I don't know. I got stuff done. It's about winning the day. So I have to fill 250 seats at my Freedom Club Festival on November 8th, right? I didn't start the week before. I didn't start 2 days before. I started a year before. I have 365 days to get one outcome done. One of the biggest things entrepreneurs don't do is delegate, outsource, hire. Well, I don't have enough money to do that. Really? You don't have enough money not to do it. Because the fact of the matter is, if it takes you 2 hours to do something that's not in your wheelhouse, the first pillar of the freedom lifestyle is superpowers. I'm a Gallup Strengths Coach. We know when you work in your strength zone, you're more profitable, you're more efficient, things flow instead of grind, right? You hire someone to do those things, it takes them a half hour. Let's say you have a $250 an hour rate. You just made money by hiring that person. So there's a number of things we can do, but use your example of listen, you've written books, I've written books. Yeah, I had a number of outcomes I had to do to write that book. I started last January. It was just published a week ago. It's not like I just jump into it and say, wow, I got 500 things I have to do today. If you're smart and you reverse engineer it all the way to the beginning of the year, there's one outcome today, one outcome tomorrow, and you don't try to shove it all in at the last minute.
Okay, I'm still not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that I think we agree. What do you think about the 4-hour work week? What are your thoughts on that very famous book?
Yeah, it made a huge impact in my life. And I think a lot of people misconstrue it as you could literally work 4 hours, right? I set a goal of working 12 to 14 hours a week. I set that back when I had my agency and I pushed it over 7 figures. It forced me to focus on the things that actually make sense, those non-negotiables. Joe Peachy, global gurus, whoever that is, ranks him the number 3 sales trainer in the world. He packs in sales trainings, everything. He said he made the most money when his wife, who's his business partner, was knocked out with mono. It forced him to weed away all the BS and focus on the 1 or 2 things that actually matter. I've always been most profitable, had my most profitable months when I go on vacation. Why? Because I have 1 hour a day to actually focus on the non-negotiables in my day. And you know what? I weed away all the BS. Because if I have a computer in front of me, I will use it. And I waste 3 hours, I spin my wheels. And real productivity, we talk about productivity, somewhere along the line, the humans invented the lever, right? So that 500 villagers didn't have to come out and lift the boulder. There's some people today who still wear a badge of honor. You see them there on Facebook. Don't contact me this week. I won't be returning calls. I'm so busy. It's martyr syndrome. We invented the lever. That's productivity. The 500 villagers coming out is not productivity.
All right. So who does all of the BS? Do you outsource all of the BS then?
Well, you have to identify, it's the Pareto principle. Tim Ferriss talks about that, the 80-20 rule, right? You have to identify the 80% of the inputs that aren't getting you in the straightest, shortest, simplest line to your outcomes. Now, some of those inputs, maybe you shit can. Excuse me if I don't know if I can say that word here. Sorry, I apologize. Maybe you throw in the trash, you throw away, right? You don't do because they're unnecessary. Maybe a number of those you outsource, you delegate. You hire the bookkeeper, you hire the designer, you do these things. And so you're not the one sitting going, I know a lot of entrepreneurs who play with WordPress. They're not developers. You hire that out. Or some of them, you wait until the last minute. It doesn't have to be done today. It could be done next Thursday, next Wednesday, next Friday. But you identify the straightest, shortest, simplest line to your outcomes and you reverse engineer it to right now.
What do you do when you are in a cash-strapped position and one of the bootstrap tricks is build your own website? Don't outsource it to a developer for $6,000 when you can take a $39 class and do it yourself. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it depends on what your outcomes are. And I can't define those for every single person, but I have some people right now in my mastermind. It's called the Freedom Club Accelerator. And they're worried about their logo and their website. And how do I do that? I had 10 clients before I had a website or a logo. And so you have to focus on those specific things. A lot of people like to hide behind the website and the logo. Why? Because it's more comfortable for them than picking up the phone and calling clients. And
whoa, doing what now? What was that strategy you just talked about? You even made a weird motion. What is this motion?
It's actually picking up the phone and calling clients.
I've never heard of this crazy idea, Curt. This is beyond our abilities here. This is not, this is not a conspiracy radio show.
It's amazing how, the less, I have a sales team, right? And it's amazing the amount of folks who come in, oh, I'm a closer. It's like they got Glenn Ross in their head, right? They never pick up the phone. They send 3 emails and, well, I'm just going to give up. The more and more people do that, the more impact you have when you pick up the phone, you call someone and they're like, wow, someone's actually calling me. I'm not used to that. What's this all about? And when you mix inbound, which I do a lot of, and you're doing right now with this podcast, when you mix it with outbound and you pair those two together, that's when you're on fire.
All right. Let's actually dive into the book and talk about the 5 pillars. We've been sort of digressing and talking about these words, what freedom means and what misery means. We've gone through a couple of the pillars. So number 1 was identify my superpowers, right?
Yes. I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach. And if people are unfamiliar with the Strengths Finder program, about 40 years ago, psychologist, he ended up working with Gallup, Donald Clifton, looked at the big book of mental disorders. It was sitting on his desk. And it was always, hey, what's wrong with people? What's everyone's weaknesses? Let's attack those. Let's try and fix those. He said, what would happen if we flipped the script a little bit? We said, what's right with people? And we start there. 40, 50 years later, now they know 90% of Fortune 500 companies have their employees take the assessment. Millions of small business owners, individuals take this assessment. And we know that the best route to development is amplifying your strengths. Getting in that zone where those behaviors, those naturally recurring patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior. I tell people, I had a friend who was a former semi-pro baseball player, and he didn't understand this. And a lot of people say, well, I'm playing to my strengths, and really they're playing to hit their skills. And I said, all right, Chris. I said, when you were a baseball player, were you right-handed hitter or left-handed hitter? He said, I hit from the right-handed side of the plate. I said, okay. What if at the beginning of the season, your manager came up to you and said, hey, Chris, we're going to try something new this year. You're going to hit from the left-handed side of the plate.
That's Rocky too. I saw that movie.
And he said, well, I'd suck. My batting average would be horrible. I'd hate it. I'd quit. I'd get benched. I'd probably leave the team. I said, right. Whether or not you could hit a baseball is a skill. Your strength is whether you're right-handed or left-handed. You pair that skill and you invest in it and pair it with your natural talent, it turns into a strength. You amplify that strength on a regular basis. You hit the batting cages, you show up, you have a love for the game, your experiences. You amplify those every day, and then you're working in your superpower zone. You don't ignore your weaknesses. Larry Bird described himself as a slow white guy who couldn't jump. No matter how much he worked out, he wasn't going to jump as high as Dominique Wilkins or Michael Jordan, but he knew he would get in shape. He'd be as fast as he could, but he could shoot the heck out of the ball. He could pass the heck out of the ball. He amplified what he was great at. He became the best Larry Bird he could be, NBA Hall of Famer, one of the best of all time.
Pillar number 2, please, Curt.
Vision. We already talked about that a little bit, having that clear vision for your life. And if you're an entrepreneur, your business should be an extension of who you are as a person. That vision pairs your purpose for living, for being here, purpose for your business, for your startup, with the impact you want to make on the world.
All right. I love talking about this, and I got into a huge argument with Simon Sinek about it. Purpose. My purpose, Curt, is to make payroll on Friday. My purpose is to sell a bunch of crap that I don't like myself. I don't use it, but I sell it because people buy it, and therefore I can have more time to do what I like. My purpose is, as a freedom entrepreneur, my freedom is taking more woodworking classes, and the only way I can do that is if I sell a lot of stuff, and the best stuff I'm selling at is stuff I don't like because I don't use it, and I have no passion for it. My passion is for woodworking, which I only can accomplish if I make a lot of money as an entrepreneur selling crap that I could care less about. Thoughts?
Yeah, what you're talking about are objectives and outcomes. I have to make money. Listen, I love money. For 17 years, my wife and I were engaged on the fake Grand Canal at the Venetian in Las Vegas, right?
I've been there.
I'm making 7 figures.
Were you engaged for 17 years? That's what you just implied, Curt.
No.
That's what you just said. If you took your words and you gave them to a Democrat House of Representative member, they would say that you were, in fact, engaged for 17 years.
Yes, and I would undergo impeachment hearings. Yes, no, we were engaged, and then 17 years later, we got married a year later. But after we got engaged, we said, oh, we're going next year. 7 figures. And I never had enough money. Well, we got to make that next 10 grand, that next 15 grand before we go. Oh, we got 4 kids. We can't go now. I shut down my agency of obviously my revenue took a hit. It's on its well way back up now that I'm doing what I love. But we always said we don't have enough money to go and travel. I shut down my agency, right? Then it's like, oh, then you should keep all your money. We went 5.5 weeks to Europe. My point is, money is an outcome to purchase the experiences that fulfill you. You talk about woodworking, right? So I have to make X amount of dollars to do woodworking, right? Making money, how do you do that? I do X amount of podcasts. This is why we reverse engineer our vision. When you talk about your purpose, yeah, you do things along the way. Those are outcomes. Those are objectives. So I have to write my book. My purpose is not my book. Writing the book is an outcome to become a thought leader, maybe make some money along the way. Now I have a book, I can charge my 15, 20 grand for speaking, right? That allows me to reach an audience, help them be more free and fulfilled. And you know what? When I make that 15, 20 grand, I travel the world with my family. And so what you mentioned, absolutely 100% valid, but those are outcomes, which is, by the way, pillar number 4.
Number 4, yes. I'm very good at taking notes. I actually had that. Number 3 first.
Yes, alignment. So the term work-life balance, BS. It's mythical. There's work, a lot of people separate. By saying work-life balance, you think there's work over here and life over here. Well, we're all living human beings. You can't separate the two. There's just life. The key to fulfillment is aligning your family, yourself, your work in a way that works for you. I can't describe how much. So I have people do this. I have them take a piece of paper, draw a circle in the middle. It's a pizza pie. The pizza is going to have 3 slices. You draw those 3 slices. 1 slice for work, 1 for family, 1 for self. But the size of each slice is in direct proportion to the amount of time, mind share, worry, et cetera, that you spend on each slice. That doesn't just, if you're in the office 50 hours, but you're worrying about it all day on Saturday, right? So you draw those slices. Then right over that pizza pie, you redraw them the way you want your life to be. I've never seen it where the self slice needs to be smaller. And I've never seen it where the work life slice needs to be bigger. I've seen it where family actually needs to be a little smaller. Working moms sometimes put too much into their family and not enough into self-care. So you look at those areas that are out of alignment, and then you use that as a goal. This is what I want to do to get my life in better alignment instead of balance.
Yeah, I need a fourth slice just for hair maintenance, Kurt.
Yeah. Me, I don't have that problem, so I don't know anything about that. Well, the beard.
Well, I was going to ask you how many months is my haircut away from your haircut?
Well,
It's a choice at this point.
you probably could do it. So if I let mine grow out, it's like little islands on the top,
Yeah.
but it's about the same on the side and the back. So I just decided,
Yeah.
I'm done with it.
Yeah. Number 4, outcomes. I feel like we've talked about that.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's go to number 5 then, the 5th pillar.
Yeah, flow. So it's not about grinding, it's about flow. And it's the cumulative effect of the first 4 pillars. I mean, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, yes, that's actually how you pronounce it. And usually I have to have it phonetically pronounced, but he wrote the book Flow in the 1980s or 1990s. And he talked about the definition of flow is having those short-term outcomes every day that you need to achieve, to know what it takes to win each day. Having it clearly defined. Well, when you're in your superpower zone, you're able to use what comes naturally, right? If you're hitting from the left-handed side of the plate and you're right-handed, you're certainly grinding, you're not flowing. Outcomes is all about knowing those key outcomes every day. When you're in alignment, I go to the chiropractor every day. Every week, not every day. I would have to earn a lot more money to go every day. And, the key with a chiropractor is to get you in alignment. And without giving too much information, when I'm in alignment, things are flowing better all over my body.
That was too much information, Kurt.
Yes.
You said without, and then you immediately did it. So
I thought this was a school for anatomy. No.
Yeah. Well, first you dropped the S word. Now we're gonna have to edit this part out too. This interview is going to be 7 minutes long when we're done.
I'm canceled. It's cancel culture. I'm done.
That's because you worked more than 4 hours during your work week.
Yes. Yes.
Seriously though, I like all of this. This makes a lot of sense to me. I think the hard part is understanding, and I think that a lot of people would argue that I don't have a superpower, that I am just me. There's 7 billion people out here. There's not going to be 7 billion Marvel super movies because I am a stay-at-home dad. I cook mediocrely well. Some days I forget to do the homework with the kids. There is no superpower here. And I think that a lot of people would argue that they don't superpower. Would you agree with me?
I would argue, well, I agree.
Agree that they don't think, but you would argue that they secretly do.
Oh, absolutely. So Peter Drucker once said, and I'm going to butcher his quote, that most people think they know what they're good at, yet they're wrong. Yet most people, you can only operate from a position of strength, operate optimally. I've given several hundred StrengthsFinder assessment. If you go to Gallup Strength Center right now, anyone can take this assessment. Every human has 34 talents. I call those your untapped superpowers, right? So like mine are learner, responsibility. When you combine them all together and you look at all of them, you're more of a strategic thinker, more of a relationship builder, more of an executor, trains on time type of guy, or you're more analytical. And the problem is this signals, right, if you're hitting from the right-handed side of the plate or the left-handed side of the plate. If you have your strategic thinker trying to keep the trains running on time, he or she may feel like they're a failure, and you may be like, well, you're fired. You're not getting that done. The strategic thinkers need to be strategic thinkers. The relationship builders need to be out there building relationships. And every single human has these 34 talent themes. The order and which are near the top 5. So if you go and take the StrengthsFinder assessment, it shows you your top 5, right? The odds that you would find your strengths twin, the person with the same 5 in the same order, is 1 in 33 million. When you start investing in those, then you start to discover your superpower. But most people have no idea what they are.
That's really good. I like that ratio too. So I think I'm going to take the test, see what mine are.
Yeah, go on there. It's $19.99, and it comes with a lot of reports. There's a lot of assessments you take, and you're like, great, so what? Yeah. And you walk away. This actually gives action guides on what you can do every day to invest in your talents to turn them into strengths. So, like, I'm a learner, number one. I have to read every morning. It primes me for the day. You may think, well, it's fiction. What does that have to do with your workday? Well, if I go to the gym and I do leg press, I'm not doing leg press because I'm going to do like leg press any other day or any other hour of my life. I do it so my legs are strong, so I can walk up the stairs, so I can pick up my kids. It's like that with your strengths. You start investing in those, they're just like muscles. They become stronger and they help you throughout the day.
Curt, how do we find out more? Get a copy of the book, follow you online.
The easiest way, go to 5pillarsoffreedom.com. It's a landing page on my website. You can get chapter 1 of my book free or purchase it if you like. And that's got all the other links to my podcast, my website, all that good stuff.
Fantastic. Curt, thank you so very much. Great stuff. And I hope you'll come back again soon. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.